Good morning and welcome to Budget Model Railways, and this is the update on my beginner's guide to an engaged layout. Please try and watch through to the end a little bit. I'm going to cover quite a bit today. I'm going to look at where the rolling stock and locos come from, some of the operating potential, and then at the end I'm going to give a little sneak preview for another engaged project I've just started working on, so worth watching through to the end. So those of you that have got this far, you know the idea was to create a layout that anybody could build with simple tools, not needing carpentry and so on, and using commercially available items. Now you can see the layout's moved on a little bit. There's quite a few added extras. So I've added some concrete areas there and in the loading bay. Actually, they're just cereal packet card, not even painted, but they look great as grey concrete. I treated myself, got a little burger van. I did think, well, it's an industrial estate, it needs a burger van. And as you see, you'll see as the locos move around, I've got a few little things like forklift trucks, some fences. They're items bought quite cheaply on eBay. Some 3D, we did those ourselves, some 3D printed containers, just to give it a little bit of life to the layout. Now, one thing I did discover with a bit of experimentation was to leave this area clear. I tried putting a few things there experimentally, but they get in the way of the shunting. So, purpose of today's video is to look at, if you've got this far, where are you going to get your cheap locos and rolling stock from? And the answer is Cato. It's this range, the Cato pocket line range, that got me into N. These currently can be bought for around the £50 mark. Company called Train Tracks, that's spelt with an X, Train Tracks. Look them up online. There's a number of places you can get them as well. As always, shop around. There is some big variations in these. Few places on eBay doing them at £46, some doing them at £56, £60, which is a big percentage increase. And what you get in there is a fantastic little steeple cab loco. Now these are great. They're absolutely some of the best runners I've got for shunting. And you also get two wagons. Now, although they are unpainted, you can just see in there. In fact, when you paint them up, so I've just painted them, put a load in, black washed it, they become really rather nice little wagons. So £50 for a loco and two wagons is a good price. And that's new. Given that the Hornby 00040 is well over 60 and is not always the world's greatest shunting layout, shunting loco, this is a great start. Now, obviously, I haven't got catenary on here. You can just ignore that and run it with the pantographs up. You could always assume it's a hybrid loco, it's got a diesel engine, or perhaps it's got third rail pickup. Or you can do what a number of people have done, which is simply take the pantographs off. They literally clip in. And you've then got an acceptable looking little diesel locomotive. Your other option is to buy the Cato 11109 chassis, which is the chassis that's in these motors. They can be bought for around the £25, £30 mark. So that's a little motorised chassis like that. And then they'll run as smooth. And then what we do, and they are available on our website, is 3D print a little centre cab, diesel shunter body for that chassis. And then you don't need to worry about the catenary. So you are very fortunate in Engage. Now, obviously, if you want to go and do UK, totally different ball game. You're going to have to spend the thick end of £70 or £80 second hand and 100, 150 plus for new. And they're not going to run any better than these. And personally, that's why I don't use them. For that price, I can get two locos and four wagons. So I don't go down that route. Now, rolling stock again, fortunately, thanks to Pico, is cheap. These are Pico wagon kits. They can be bought between about £8 and £10. I was very fortunate. I bought all mine a few years ago before the price rises. Paid about £6, £7 for them. But even at £8 or £9 for a kit, that's a big saving on a new wagon. And they paint up really well. Plus, of course, you'll have your 2 wagons potentially from your Kato set. Now, you can shop around and get second-hand N-gauge wagons. If you're careful, some of the job lots, £5 or £6 a wagon, which is obviously a good price. Because this is freelance, I can do that. If you must run, you know, the North East Railway in 1942 or something, then you are going to have to spend money. These aren't, this is a modern freelance layout. It's not set in any particular country. You can use whatever you can get hold of. And in fact, I find some of the N-gauge continental stuff is really cheap secondhand and of a very high quality. You do need to buy the short wagons. It's no good buying the longer Pico kits or some of the longer continental wagons. The Kato wagons are fractionally longer. You will get away with having 1 or 2 in your consist, but it does complicate the head shunt. But that's quite good fun because it does make the shunting a little bit more complicated. Now, you're only going to need 8 wagons to make this work. Now, I've done extensive testing. That's why I know that the longer wagons don't work. Yes, you can, in theory, get 9 or 10 wagons in the sidings, but you won't then be able to shunt them on the head shunt. I get taken to task by Americans on this about there is a set standard to Inglenook. No, there isn't. There never was. Read Cyril Freeze's book. The idea of the Inglenook is the wagons fit your head shunt and your sidings. So it matters not a jot if it's 3-2-3, 4-2-1, whatever you want. And in fact, as you shunt, you'll end up with all sorts of combinations of wagons in the sidings. So if anybody's getting all hot under the collar at this point, please don't bother messaging me. The whole point of the Inglenook is you do what you've got in the space you've got. And then what makes this work is the card system. It's called various things. I literally use a card. So I just write on a piece of card, individual wagons. And this is why I use distinctive wagons. It's no point having 8 brown box wagons. You've then got to number them and all this sort of thing. By having a yellow wagon, a blue wagon, a grey wagon, logs, green wagon, black fuel wagon, they're self-explanatory. Have seen some very nice systems done with little photo cards, whatever you want to do. But the idea is we're going to shuffle these and then we're going to shunt our wagons. I have a shunter's pole, which is a paper clip bent and stuck on a coffee stirrer, and it works more than adequately and is in effect a bit like real life. It's exactly what you would do, except I'm at 1-to-1 and that's at 1 and 144th. But I'm quite happy doing that. I don't mind about the hand of God a little bit to steady a wagon. Again, if you want to get involved in all the automatic uncoupling, you can, but it's time and expense, which is not what this layout is about. So that's where we're going to get our cheap rolling stocks and locos from. And that way, it's probably only going to cost you, and I say only, but about £100 to get your loco and wagons. By comparison, I was looking at O-gauge, and to do the same thing in O-gauge would be about £400. To do the same in double O, you would be getting on for about £150, £200 at new prices. So let's have a little go at shunting. So I'm not sure how this is going to film because obviously my hands and things are going to get in the way. But I'm just going to run one just to give you some idea. I think there's something like 2,500 combinations here. And I was certainly shunting for an hour the other night. And this is a fabulous layout to use. I've got my controller integral. The loco appears to run out. I don't need a fiddle yard. It's all there, compact, ready to go. And I simply shuffle the cards and I put them on the table in front of me. And with my system, I want 4 wagons to be pulled out. So I've pulled out the green brake, that one, green logs, that one, blue box, black tanker. Now that is going to be quite interesting because it's got the 2 longer wagons. And how I personally do it is to start by trying to get that wagon at the end of a rake. So I'm going to pull these forward. Change the points. And I'm going to get the last one in there. You can do what speed you like. Now, you see, this is a case in point that has unfortunately just stalled there because it's on a point. That's quite unusual, that, in fact. I'm going to undo this one because they're not actually going to fit in that siding. So I'm going to have to stop and think here a little bit. And what we're going to have to do, in fact, is to put the tank wagon. I am running it a little bit quicker than normal because otherwise I think it would get a little boring for people. Just push those a little bit out the way. Now, in fact, this is why it's a challenge with the longer wagons, because they won't fit in the head shunt. So we're going to have to fiddle around, do quite a bit more shunting to make this work. Because what we're actually going to have to do is leave some wagons in here and then move them. It's quite an interesting challenge, actually, sometimes to work out what is going to go where. As I say, I don't mind the hand of God, so I'm just going to put those in like that. I'm usually sat down to do this as well, so I'm at a slightly different angle to normal. So we've got those two. Yes, I think I can make this work okay. So what we're actually going to do now, so this is why the longer wagons, this would have been a very simple shunt if I hadn't had the two longer wagons. So it's going to be quite an interesting one. I've got to make space. Now that wagon I need to change because the coupling is a little stiff. We have spoken about this on some of the Instagram forums. It's fascinating how everything works fine shunting until you start filming. And then it tends to go wrong. But actually that's going to work quite well. That goes in there. You do need to experiment a bit. As I say, I've got a couple of wagons where the couplings aren't ideal and I should have switched them out. They can now go in there. Very smooth, good little runner. Though, as I say, just unfortunately I stopped it on the plastic frog, and that's quite unusual actually for that to stop. Now we want the blue box. Again, that wagon, yeah, needs changing. And that's going to go there. Actually, this will work quite well now. Now we've moved those wagons out of the way. And I just enjoy sitting, watching the locomotive working, doing what it would be doing in real life, in what is quite a nice setting. And that for me is what these are all about, is operating some locos in a nice setting. And then that will pull back in there. It's relatively easy to unhook these couplings. I gave up on Engage. I started with Engage 9 years ago when we started with railways, and I struggled, and a few of the forums said, no, it can't be done and all this. Unfortunately, I was poorly advised because it's actually quite easy if you get your couplings organised. So that's my consist in the order that the cards came out, and he's going to pull that off now, and then I run it back and I start again. And the reason, this is why I don't have a fiddle yard. I don't need it. I know it looks a bit odd with him shunting back, but it's a shunting puzzle. It's a game, if you like. I don't need it to leave the scene. It can just go into the head shunt. And then all I do simply, personally, I place the cards like that, so that I know they're mixed. I give them a bit of a shuffle, and then you'd start again. Blue box, yellow box, green logs, black tanker. And then you'll shunt those. I'll do a slightly longer shunting video as well. But out of interest, let's just run this one. And then hopefully that will be interesting for people. As I say, if these were shorter wagons, it would be easier. But it's quite nice sometimes to add some difficulty. So actually what we're going to do, I'm going to run that in there. Now, there's always more than one way of doing these things, and I'm sure somebody's sitting there screaming at the camera saying, why didn't you put this wagon there? Why didn't you put that wagon there? But that, in some ways, is the point. There's often more than one way of achieving the end. If I wasn't filming, I would probably concentrate a little bit more. But as yet, I haven't found a combination where I've gone, oh yeah, can't make that work. That's not going to work. Largely because I'm only using 8 wagons. As soon as you add more wagons, you do then often just simply run out of room. So it can go there. We want green logs yet next. So what we'll do is we'll take that one out. Now, as I say, I don't mind the hand of God. I know some people do. These couplings swivel a bit too much sometimes. And I don't get over upset if I get a derailment or something like that. I knock a wagon off. It's model railways. We're playing a game. I'm not going to start beating myself up. So this actually is quite a simple shunt. There we go. And we can put the yellow box back in there. And get the blue box. So compared to the last one, this is a relatively simple little shunt. I'm glad I stayed on and did that one now. And what I do sometimes if I want to make it more difficult is once I've got the wagons I want, that's that stiff coupling again, I tidy the sidings up just so that they're in a different order before I move off. There we go. And then again, it can run off and away we go. Comes back, starts again. And that's the idea behind the puzzle. And I find it really absorbing and relaxing. That's why I make shunting layouts. So there we have it. Not an expensive layout to build, relatively very easy layout to build. Literally anybody could build that layout. It just uses a craft knife and some glue, a hammer and a few tacks and some track. And as you can see, an awful lot of shunting potential there, a lot of operating potential, and still a nice looking layout. You know, and I can add little bits and pieces. I can add some more people and make the scenes a bit more interesting. But there's a lot going on in that layout for such a small area. So thank you for those of you that have been watching. I know a few people have already said, big hi to Ian that bought my layout, that they're going to make this. I'd love to hear of people who've said, yeah, they're going to have a go at this or something similar. Thank you as always for watching. And I did promise you a sneak preview, didn't I? I nearly forgot. Let's do that. So there we go. That's the sneak preview. So this is a micro oval N-gauge layout. It is only 11 inches by 2 feet. And the track is only 10-inch diameter. Now you can get a little smaller than that, but the wagons won't go around it. It still has 2 sidings, which means it's in effect an Inglenook siding because of that passing track. So I've got an Inglenook siding and I've got the ability to run trains. I always regretted selling Market Town, which was my 00 2-level town scene. So I'm going to recreate it in N. You've got the excellent Metcalfe Brewery there. So that's functioning as a multi-level goods shed going up to that level. The little ramshackle workshop. I've got a Metcalfe station building. I've got second hand. I've got the footbridge, which is going to be converted to come onto a platform, and I'm going to have low relief buildings around the top. So there we go. That will be the next project. Look forward to the videos on that one. Thanks as always for your time and your support. Speak to you again soon.